the early hours of June 22nd, 2013, 18-year-old Brookelyn Farthing sent a series of text messages asking for a ride home. At one point, she told someone she was scared. A short while later, that fear seemed to vanish. Another message was sent from her phone saying she was fine and that she was heading to another party in Rockcastle County. But there is one problem. No one can say for certain that Brookelyn wrote that final message. Just over an hour later, the house where she had last been seen was found on fire. Brookelyn was gone. Her cowboy boots were still there. Some of her clothes were still there. Her purse was still there. But Brookelyn Farthing was never seen again. Tonight, we examine the haunting disappearance of a young woman who should have made it home by sunrise, but instead vanished into one of Kentucky's most troubling unsolved mysteries. Brooklyn Shea Farthing, known to her loved ones as Brooke, was from the Berea area of Kentucky. She was just 18 years old in the summer of 2013, fresh out of high school and standing at the edge of adulthood, still deciding exactly what shape her future might take. To the people who knew her best, Brooke was vibrant, stubborn in the way only someone full of life can be, and deeply loved. Her family remembered her as a spunky, lovable girl who loved animals, the outdoors, and the kind of simple things that make a person unforgettable once they are gone. She had plans, she had people waiting for her, and by every account, she had no reason to disappear voluntarily. Friday, June 21st, had begun as an ordinary day. In fact, for Brooke and her younger sister Paige, it was a meaningful one. They had both gone to take their driving tests. Brooke passed. Later, the family came together to celebrate her grandfather's 70th birthday. No one in that room could have known that this would be the last normal evening they would ever spend with Brookelyn. After the family gathering, Brooke, Paige, and a cousin went to a birthday party off Red Lick Road. At some point, Paige and the cousin decided to leave, but Brooke stayed behind. According to her family, she had expected to spend the night with a close friend, but those plans fell through after she had already arrived. What happened next would become the beginning of a timeline that still does not fully make sense more than a decade later. After the party, Brooke reportedly caught a ride with a man she knew. According to later reporting, another intoxicated young man also needed a ride, and Brooke ended up driving him home before returning to the residence of the man who had given her access to the vehicle. That home, in the 100 block of Dillon Court in Berea, would become the last confirmed place she was ever seen. As the night turned into morning, Brooke began reaching out for help. She called her sister. She texted her ex-fiancé. She asked for a ride home. And somewhere in those early morning hours, her messages took on a darker tone. According to reporting and family accounts, Brooke sent texts that made it clear she was uncomfortable. One of them said, "I'm scared." Another pleaded for someone to hurry. This is one of the most chilling parts of the case, because it suggests Brooke did not feel safe where she was. And yet, despite that fear, no one got to her in time. Her ex-fiancé was at work and could not come immediately. Other potential rides were unavailable. Brooke was stranded at a house she never should have had to remain at until daylight. Then, at around 5:30 in the morning, a final text was sent from her phone. "Never mind, I'm okay. I'm going to a party in Rockcastle County." That message changed everything. If Brooke truly sent it, then perhaps she left Dillon Court willingly with someone else. But if she did not send it, then it may have been a deliberate attempt to buy time, mislead her loved ones, and send investigators in the wrong direction from the very start. Police would later suggest they believed that final text may not have been written by Brookelyn at all. And if that is true, then the message was not reassurance. It was a cover. At around 7 in the morning, the fire department received a call about a fire at the Dillon Court residence. The homeowner reportedly told authorities he had been outside, tending to horses, or moving them into a field, and when he returned, he saw that the house was on fire. The blaze did not destroy the entire home, but one detail stood out immediately. The fire had centered on the couch. That couch was almost completely consumed, and the flames burned a hole into the floor beneath it. Investigators ruled the fire suspicious, and the reasons were not difficult to understand. The house reportedly had no electricity at the time. Utilities had been shut off for weeks. There was no obvious electrical explanation for how a couch in a darkened home would suddenly ignite and burn so intensely. Inside the residence, several of Brooke's belongings were found. Her cowboy boots were there. Some of her clothing was there. According to family accounts and reporting, even her overnight items had been left behind. But Brooklyn herself was nowhere to be found. Only one especially important item appeared to be missing: her cellular phone. That detail has haunted the case ever since, because if Brooke had chosen to leave on her own, why would she walk away without the basic items she would need, yet take only the one object that could reveal who she was speaking to, where she was going, and perhaps what happened in her final known hours? Her family did not believe she ran away. And the more the facts emerged, the harder that theory became to accept. Brooke had made plans for the following day. She had been arranging rides home, not rides away. She had reached out to people she trusted. And most importantly, she had expressed fear. People who are about to start a new life do not usually send desperate texts asking to be rescued first. Once authorities realized Brooklyn was missing, an enormous search effort followed. Kentucky State Police investigated aggressively. Hundreds of volunteers joined in. Search teams combed woods surrounding the area. Divers checked nearby bodies of water. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Investigators pursued leads and searched thousands of acres across several counties. And yet, despite all of that effort, Brooke seemed to have vanished as if the earth had opened beneath her. Days later, another disturbing detail emerged. Her phone reportedly pinged off a tower in the Blue Lick area one final time. After that, silence. No calls. No confirmed sightings. No contact. No proven activity tied to Brooklyn Farthing ever again. As the years passed, the case only became stranger. Authorities never publicly named a suspect. They also avoided formally naming a person of interest. But they made it clear that this was not a forgotten case. Kentucky State Police later stressed that Brooklyn's disappearance was still being worked actively and was not simply sitting in a cold file. That distinction matters, because in some unsolved cases, public silence means stagnation. Here, investigators have repeatedly suggested something very different, that they believe someone knows exactly what happened that night, and that one truthful statement could finally break the case open. So, what may have happened to Brooklyn Farthing? One possibility is that Brooke left the house willingly after sending that last text, heading toward another gathering in Rockcastle County as the message claimed. But there are serious problems with that theory. No credible public evidence has ever shown that she actually arrived at such a party. Her essential belongings remained behind, and perhaps most importantly, the suspicious fire at the exact location she had last been seen creates a coincidence so extreme that it strains belief. Another possibility is that something happened inside that house before the fire ever started. If Brooke was harmed there, the blaze may have been used to destroy evidence, stage confusion, or create a distraction. The couch, after all, was the center of the fire, and according to the homeowner's account, Brooke had last been seen sitting on that couch, smoking a cigarette. That explanation, on its surface, provides a simple narrative. But investigators did not accept it as accidental. They ruled the fire suspicious. And if the fire was deliberate, then it becomes impossible to ignore the question at the heart of this case. Was the fire meant to erase what happened to Brooklyn Farthing? There is also the possibility that Brooke left the residence alive, only to encounter danger elsewhere, perhaps with someone she trusted, or perhaps with someone who knew she was vulnerable and stranded. That would explain the missing phone. It might even explain the final text, if she sent it under pressure, or if she was persuaded to get into another vehicle. But even that theory runs into the same wall as every other explanation in this case. No verified witness has ever come forward to place Brooke safely anywhere after those early morning hours. No trace of her has been publicly confirmed. No remains have been found. No confession has led to resolution. Nothing. And in missing person cases, total absence can be as telling as evidence itself. Brooklyn was tiny, about 5'1", and roughly 105 pounds. She was last reportedly wearing a gray Madison County Future Farmers of America t-shirt and light blue denim shorts. She had blonde hair, brown eyes, pierced ears, and a birthmark on her left hip. These details have been repeated for years across flyers, articles, and pleas for help, not because her family believes people have forgotten her face, but because they refused to stop hoping that someone, somewhere, knows something that could bring her home. For Brooke's mother, sister, and the people who loved her, the pain never became a past event. It became a permanent state of waiting. Waiting for a tip. Waiting for a break. Waiting for a phone call that should have come home over a decade ago. Her family has continued to push for answers, fundraise, maintain awareness, and offer a reward for information. At one point, reporting noted that a reward of $14,000 was being offered for information that could help solve the case. But for families like Brooke's, this has never truly been about money. It is about truth. It is about being able to say her name without wondering what her final moments looked like. It is about knowing whether those terrified messages were her last real words, and whether the person responsible has been walking free all this time. Today, Brooklyn Farthing remains classified as endangered missing. No one has been arrested in connection with her disappearance. No public resolution has come, and the terrifying sequence of that night still remains: a missed ride home, frightened text messages, a suspicious final message, a fire burning through a couch in a powerless house, and a young woman who disappeared so completely that even now, more than a decade later, Kentucky State Police say they are still waiting for the one tip that could explain it all. Someone knows what happened to Brooklyn Farthing. Someone knows whether she ever left that house under her own power. Someone knows who sent that last message. And someone knows why a couch caught fire just as the last known traces of Brooke's ordinary life were left behind. Until those answers come, Brooklyn Farthing's case remains one of the most haunting disappearances in Kentucky's recent history, not only because a young woman vanished, but because in the hours before she did, she tried to get home. She asked for help. And by sunrise, she was gone. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Brooklyn Farthing, you are urged to contact Kentucky State Police in Richmond. Even the smallest detail could matter. Even now.